You have to quit smoking weed today. In this video, I will be sharing my experience after over 10 years of chronically smoking marijuana and finally realizing at 26 years old that it is a fucking problem. I will be touching on the areas of my life that I feel were mostly affected by marijuana consumption in a negative way, and hopefully you can extract something positive. One thing that I want you to do after watching this video, and that's the main focus, is ask yourself and critically think inwards if it is worth it or not to keep smoking weed, especially if you're in your 20s. Which takes me directly as to who is this video for. You are a male in your 20s. You somehow feel that you cannot control your emotions and thoughts, therefore your vices. And you feel a little bit or heavily stuck in life, and on top of that you keep smoking weed even as little as once a week or once a month. Now I do want to make a side note as to the reason why I mentioned males primarily. There is an article by the National Institute on Drug Abuse that states that statistically males are more prone to weed consumption than females, and also we are more likely to get stuck and hooked to weed. I will leave a link in the description below if you want to read that article yourself. Quick disclaimer, yes, there are people out there that can actually manage, regulate, and control their consumption of marijuana and have it never affect their lives in any negative way in any field. I cannot do that, and that's the reason why I'm making this video. Hopefully you can relate, so let's dive in. My experience with marijuana, let's touch on that real quick. Been smoking for 10 plus years chronically, and the longest period of abstinence that I had within those 10 years has been 6 months. That's the longest I've gone without smoking weed. I was always making excuses for it. Believe me, this will not end well. Especially if you are feeling a little bit stuck in life, or if you're just starting to self-develop yourself as a man and looking for your purpose. We will touch on this specific matter later on in this video. Just a couple examples as to the excuses I was making. Maybe you have made the same excuses yourself. Weed is just a plant. At least I'm not an alcoholic or a crackhead. Oh, I'm an artist. It goes perfectly with my career path. It matches. I've been guilty of that one myself, and it's complete, utter bullshit. It helps me sleep. No, it doesn't. I can control it when clearly you cannot control it. Also, the other experience I've had with marijuana is that I was quitting everything. This, of course, is affected by many factors, but I can tell you from my experience of chronically smoking weed, which releases an insane amount of dopamine per hit, will hinder your ability to be disciplined and find your purpose. Remember, you are in your 20s, for God's sake. This is the most important period in your life so that you can lay solid foundations for who you want to be in the future as a man. And the other aspect of my experience was depression. This, of course, is subjective. I've been through different experiences than you have been. We all carry emotional baggage and we all have shit to deal with. In my case, since I was a kid, I was very depressive. I had tendencies of just being fucking sad all the time. I had to turn 26 years old to realize that weed was only enhancing that issue for me. I'm not saying you're depressed right now, and nor I'm saying that weed is going to make you depressive right away. All I'm saying is that if you are heavily affected or overwhelmed by failure, you cannot have weed being a part of your life, period. So let's jump into the main pillars that I think take the most detriment when smoking. Starting with the most important one, in my opinion, that if you make it right, you will be able to start amending for the other pillars and your life overall, which is health. I will do my best to not butcher this concept that I extracted from the Huberman Lab podcast and his episode on weed and the impacts that it has on your brain. If you want to expand on this, go check it out. I will leave a link in the description below for that episode. You can check it out on YouTube or just listen to the podcast. I honestly think it's one of the best science-based content creators out there. I mean, the guy's a Stanford professor of neuroscience, man. There's no other better source of knowledge in terms of your brain out there. So, your brain has cannabinoid receptors that come factory-ish. These cannabinoid receptors are there to absorb cannabinoids. Duh. And there are two main cannabinoids that you can find in, you guessed it, marijuana, THC and CBD. Basically, these cannabinoid receptors are within your brain to regulate healthy amounts of these two molecules that I just mentioned. Now, when you smoke weed, every single hit that you are taking is sending ridiculous amounts of these two cannabinoids to your receptors in your brain, leaving them to think, man, we're being fed so fucking much of these. And when you come down from your high, these cannabinoid receptors are going to be left thinking, man, where's the dosage? We need the extra fucking boost, aka marijuana. So now you're left with a self-created issue within your brain. And long-term, this can heavily affect its function and its neuroplasticity. Of course, like I said, I don't want to butcher this. Go listen or watch the Huberman Lab podcast on this episode and expand on your realization. But basically understand that every single hit that you are taking from that joint is fucking up your brain. It's a fact, especially long-term. Within health, there are various branches that I want to touch on that I think are heavily affected in a negative way by weed, starting with an eating disorder, aka the munchies. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. When you're high, you crave crappy food, refined sugars, and just overall junk food. This can leave you with gut problems, or it can literally fuck up your fitness goals that can lead to other issues down the line. And even if you don't have fitness goals, which I think you should, but even if you don't, it's going to create problems for your health if you just uncontrollably go to the fridge and find whatever it is in there, or just order food for the rest of your life every single time that you're high. Again, this comes from my experience of not being able to control marijuana consumption. Another branch that stems from that is sleep. Stop lying to yourself, man. Every single time that I was sitting on my balcony trying to smoke a joint to go to sleep, I ended up so high that I was like, man, I gotta spend my high on something interesting. So I would hop on my video game, or I will just watch PewDiePie on YouTube. Damn, I feel old referencing Pewds. Remember, you have to stop making excuses for it. Stop it right now. I spent 10 years saying this to myself, and I had to be 26 to realize it was a problem. Don't let it happen to you if you're younger than me. If you're older than me, you're still on time. Finally, the third branch that I want to touch on is libido. Of course, this is not science-based at all. This is just from my experience, being completely honest with you guys. But I just feel like smoking weed got me less horny, man. I lost my sexual drive and drive in general. I was losing my desire of pushing the envelope forward, and I was just fucking if it was extremely easy. And it completely destroyed many relationships and many opportunities in my life. I do know that libido doesn't necessarily translate specifically to sex, even though it's the biggest thing, but it also touches on your drive, your desires, and overall motivation. So yeah, I was basically a dead man walking, thinking that having dreams was enough to push me forward. So that's it for health. Now let's move to the second pillar that I think is affected by marijuana consumption, and it's fucking up your 20s, which is realizing your potential. Let's just establish this fact first. Weed interferes with the way you process information. That's the first thing we have to acknowledge as a fact. Now, this hindering your ability to process thoughts and ideas can make you lose yourself in your 20s. And remember, it is the most important time in your life. Finding your call, finding your purpose, and realizing your potential comes with experimenting in multiple fields, failing in multiple fields. Therefore, you need to explore as if life was a video game, which I really think it's the way you should look at life. At least that's the way I do. And you have to iterate an immense amount of times for your self-development. So again, let me ask you this. Do you really want to spend your time, or let me rephrase that. Do you really want to waste your time rolling joints, riding around, laughing away your potential? Think about that. Dude, if you were born rich, be my guest. If not, like me, toss the fucking joint and go get to work. So to keep the analogy of the video game, think about this for a second. Your character will not level up at all and you will not be able to acquire the skills that are needed to discover the whole world that it's in front of you. Think about it as unlocking portions of the map. You have to level up to do so, and unlocking those map areas will allow you to discover new resources that will push you forward, for example. So you will procrastinate your level up sessions, and you will completely lose the ability to apply yourself, be disciplined, and not quit the game. I will leave you with a quote one of my closest friends said to me after also quitting weed himself. If it takes away even 1% and you permit it, you're trading it for potentially failing in everything else. Let that sink in. Okay, so now let's jump into the last pillar that I think is mostly affected in a negative way by marijuana consumption. And as men, it's crucial to get this in order, especially in this day and age. And that is management of emotions and controlling your thoughts. I honestly think that what has been discussed in this video so far should at least be enough to have you questioning whether it's worth it or not to keep smoking weed, especially if you're in your 20s. In today's society, as men, it is essential and crucial that we are managing our emotions and feelings and controlling our thoughts. If you have a hard time with these two concepts and you feel like you don't have at least a little bit amount of stoic in you, I'm not telling you you have to go fully stoic. Please note that. Or if you feel like you can manage them just a little bit, or even any quantity of management that you feel that you have, marijuana will be detrimental or more detrimental to you being able to fully control and manage your emotions in any given situation in life. Believe me, it's not possible to have those two things coexist. Not being able to control your emotions and manage all of these internal battles that you have in any situation in life is what eventually will lead you towards a path of self-destruction, quitting everything, feeling lost, and living life without purpose or meaning. And that is just gonna destroy you as a man. Okay, so those were the three main pillars that I think are mostly affected in a negative way by marijuana consumption. Of course, this is my personal experience. I want you to take from it, critically think inwards towards your life, how you are living it right now, and question whether it's worth it or not to keep smoking weed, to keep hanging out with the friends that just drive you towards marijuana consumption chronically. Because remember, everybody is different. Everybody has different experiences. Go work on yourself. Okay, so I do want to leave you with a couple tips that you can apply today to help you quit smoking weed. The first one being exercise. I cannot stress enough the benefits that exercise bring to your life. It will not just help with cravings, for example, which is a huge thing the first weeks you decide to quit smoking weed, but also overall in your life. Exercise will bring so much joy, and you can actually look at it as a project within your self-development that you can commit to, see yourself progress through it, and keep yourself motivation. Because exercising is one of the most rewarding things you can do in your life. Drink tons of water, of course, and establish a healthy diet. There's many diets out there. I'm not telling you to try all of them, or if you want, do it. But with health and nutrition, just go to your nutritionist and ask what's the best diet for you. If there's doubt, or if you feel this is too complex, just go primal, man. Research on the benefits of going primal. I went primal myself, and it's one of the best decisions I've made, but that's my personal experience. I'm different than you in many aspects within my health. So do your own research and find what suits you best, but make sure you are leaning towards organic foods and stay away from processed foods and junk food. Please do that, man, so that you can keep your mind in order and your physique and overall health in tune with your self-development as a man. Pursue your interest and stay curious. I cannot tell you how important it is to be curious. I mean, this is what pushed the human race forward and keeps pushing it forward, and is what's going to help you self-develop a strong identity, because curiosity will make you question things around you, make you realize what is out there for you to explore that will help you self-develop as a man and as a well-balanced human being. So go crazy, man, with your curiosities. Explore, fail, but go and do and take action within your curiosity. And that takes me to another thing that is very important, which is time management. This is very crucial and essential. Make sure you are reducing emptiness within your days, especially weekends, but during the weeks as well. Just block your time so that there's no room for you to stand still and be like, let me just spark up real quick. Make sure you eliminate that. Of course, do your own research. There's a million videos out there on productivity, time management, blocking your time, using Notion, Google Calendar, Todoist. There's a million videos out there and a million softwares. Just like I said, stay curious. Try them out for a week. See if they work for you. If they do, stick to a process and establish your system. I cannot stress enough, man, how important it is for you to realize that smoking weed can fuck up the most important time in your lives, your 20s. So hopefully this video was of value to you and you take something positive. And tonight before going to bed, you ask yourself if it's worth it or not to wake and bake tomorrow. Stay curious. See you in the next video.